as the coordinator there, and they've had a long-standing tradition and history of playing really good defense for several years, and certainly has put his mark on that. And they're just super well coached, and they play really hard, and they're big and strong and fast. That's usually a pretty good recipe for being good on defense, and that certainly describes them.
Statistically, the next 2 or 3 defenses went back to the base. Could mean points are pretty. Does that change the way you game plan and play?
Well, the good news is we don't have to play them all at once, so that's good. We only have to play Wisconsin this week, and obviously that's where our focus is, and that in itself is a tremendous challenge, and where obviously all of our focus is during the week of preparation. And points are always at a premium. I think when you go into a game, when you play on the road and you're playing with somebody that's so strong defensively, obviously every little thing matters, just like it does when you're playing somebody that maybe not be as good on defense. Everything matters, but it gets magnified. It gets better defenses. Your mistakes get magnified. So we've got to play a clean game and take care of us because they certainly are going to create their fair share of challenges just in who they are. Well, I think he's just been real consistent. He just, we've talked ad nauseum about just, who he is and the way he loves football and the way he competes, and it's infectious. And not always does that that doesn't always translate over to the field, in this game sometimes. But when you have the talent, that he has, and the work ethic that he has and the toughness, then certainly it's been really fun for us offensively and for him individually to see some of that, come to fruition on the field. And he had a really nice game the other day, played really well. Wasn't surprised by that by any means. I don't think any of us were, because you've heard us talk, and you've seen signs of that for the first 3 games. So he certainly has emerged as a very consistent, player for us, and will need to play great on Saturday for us.
When Wisconsin has the kind of game defensively they just had against Ohio State, does that make you think as a coordinator, like they're obviously going to be, there's pride there. You kind of worry that they're going to bounce back like in a big way?
I think you have to worry about yourself, and you can't can certainly understand the question and the angle, and human nature would say, yeah, well, you try to analyze this, that, and the other, and you just don't know. And I know we'll get a great shot from them, a great plan, and a great effort. They're at home, and they've got a great history and tradition and pride. So that's just what you expect. But our main focus has to be on what we do. How do we run? How do we piece together 4 quarters on the road? And that's going to be a real challenge for us, but that's certainly the focus and the emphasis. And that's what we're going to need to do to go win this game, is we're going to have to piece together 4 and worry about Illinois and playing Illinois football. We're good.
Tommy DeVito seems like he's progressed well through the first 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Is that your assessment, and what have you seen from him?
Yeah, I think he's gotten better and better. And he obviously threw the ball really well the other night, had a nice game from, start to finish with a few. I mean, when you have the ball in your hand as many times as he does, you're 40, 50 times, whatever, there's 40, 50, 60 decisions made, during the course of the game. We don't do a whole lot of just like direct handoffs. We do some, but a lot of them are decision based. And so he's going to make mistakes naturally because of that. I would be making them too if I was out there, even as a coach, like some of the looks are gray or whatever, but he's really gotten better and better each week, gotten more and more comfortable, and is playing his best football. Now he's going to need to play his best on Saturday. Doesn't have to be perfect, but he's going to have to play really well for us going on the road this week. Sure. Yeah, I would think that it would be. We haven't talked a lot about that, but I would think that just, as much, information as there is available on the internet, that, that's a talked about deal that they know about, that they tune into, or they're in tune to. And then it takes the whole organization, right, to have somebody that's in that position this far in the season. It's not obviously just Chase, and he's done great and ran great, but it's the line, it's the receivers, it's tight ends, it's quarterbacks, it's our defense giving us opportunities to have good field position and possessions during the game. It's our special teams. It's everybody. It's a reflection of everybody. And but I think there certainly should be, and there is a sense of pride in that. Now that's behind us, and what are we going to do moving forward is a big challenge, and we'll need to be able to run the football on Saturday. And these guys and make it difficult in that regard. It's something that they really, like most defenses do, try to take away the run. And we'll have to be sharp on Saturday.
This will be presumably the largest and loudest crowd you'll face yet this year. What's key in your preparation with your guys, particularly O-line and quarterback?
Yeah, communication, obviously, that's right. Sure, it'll be a challenge. It'll be loud, and you practice it during the course of the week and get used to it. I thought Indiana was really loud. I'm sure that it'll be, it's kind of a loud stadium, and I know this will be just as loud, probably louder to a large degree. I've never been there before, but certainly watched a lot of games over my time to know that the environment's can be pretty lively. And so, but again, it's a focus on us, on our communication, one voice, one snap count, those types of things. Just a great deal of attention, focus, a great attention to having focus of the voices, the things you hear, and the things you pay attention to.
You assessed yourself third of the way through the season, and your first chance here to be a Power 5 OC, and what you've been able to do, both good and bad.
Well, I mean, I don't. That's a kind of a interesting question. I haven't really sat back and thought to reflect upon that. Like, it's so week to week. Like, okay, let's go do our job and let's see. And there's been weeks we've fallen short of that, right? That we haven't gotten it done, and that's a reflection of me. So, haven't been pleased with that. But last week we bounced back. We played a little bit better and cleaner, which was good. And that was our kids. That was our players doing that. So all I'm trying to do is put our team in the best situation that we can offensively to be successful. And that's a fight and scratch and claw daily with me and the coaching staff around me. I've got a great bunch of coaches around me that are constantly giving feedback and helping us as we formulate our game plans and what our strengths and weaknesses are. The players around me on the offensive side of the ball have been fantastic. They've given us everything. And I'm not satisfied with where we are, who would be. There's a lot that we could have done better, a lot I could have done better. And hopefully we're just continuing to grow each week to where those mistakes don't show up repeatedly, starting with myself.
The bye week on getting better. Were you happy with what you saw? I mean, you guys with no turnovers.
Yeah, I was happy about the turn. I was happy with the first half. I didn't like the way we played in the second half in particular, but the first half, I thought we played with a lot of energy and execution, and there were some really good things that happened in the first half. So I was pleased with that. And which is a good thing as a coach. I would have found something if it had been a perfect first and second half. We'd have found something that we didn't like. But certainly the first half was good. The second half, we can't afford to have those kind of lulls that we had. The game was probably in control to some degree at that point, but nonetheless, like those, we just can't have those lulls. And so that's what made me not happy or unhappy. What's your? It's usually, just like it was the other day. It's execution, occasional play call, putting the guys in the right situation, but it's just focus and execution. And listen, offense, football's hard in general. You got somebody trying to stop you. It's hard enough if nobody was. If you just went out there on air and 11 guys and go down the field and incrementally, somebody might make a mistake just on air, but when you got guys trying to fight, stop you, makes it more difficult. But so you're going to get stopped some. I mean, that's going to happen. But it was more or less just kind of maybe just a small detail here or there. I don't know if it was a mentality or not. It's hard for me to put my finger on that, but whatever it is, we got to continue to work towards getting that fixed to where we can play 4 quarters of football at our best.
When you guys get Josh back, how will that change what you do?
Change what we do. I wouldn't foresee it changing a whole lot what we do and who we are. I think our identity's starting to really come together. I think you guys see it, like kind of what we're trying to be and how we're trying to play. And I know getting him back will only help enhance that, because of his ability to run downhill and run through tackles. And he fits very well, know what we're doing from a schematic standpoint. So the biggest thing that will change when he gets back is we'll just get deeper and better at running back. And that's a good thing.
You kind of therapy. It seemed like you had a couple new wrinkles, including that what's called triple shovel pass, whatever. I guess what kind of made you comfortable implementing those?
Oh, those are just practice. Those are just practice things, that you have a lot of time and distance of working over the course. We probably run that play, 6 or 7 times in practice since I've been here in the spring, and it was beyond game ready. It's been on the call sheet for the last few weeks, and it just kind of presented itself with the structure that they played to use it. And if you're going to practice them, you might as well use them. And so I think the players they did a great job executing the play the other day. It was seamless, and that was fun to see.
Tommy DeVito's been very accurate when he's had a clean pocket. What have you seen from the pass pro, and is that really important going up against this good Wisconsin defense.
Yeah, it's going to be incredibly important, to protect our quarterback. And we obviously gave up a couple sacks the other day, and it's always good. It's not good. You never want to give up a sack, but from a coaching perspective, when you sit back and look at it, if it's are we structurally okay? Are we getting sacked from a physical one-on-one deal? Those are going to happen some, and that's kind of what those happened the other day. Was more just kind of a one-on-one. Wasn't necessarily structural in the way we had to protect it or whatnot. That's not me saying, I confess it's this person's fault or that person's fault. I'm just saying that, like, if you're going to throw a drop back pass, you're going to get beat occasionally. That's going to happen. We don't want it to happen. We train and strive and teach for it not to happen. But it's going to be at a premium that we protect him and our ball carriers. We talk about that a lot. Like the ball carrier, like we can't afford to get beat at the point of attack to let a guy in the backfield to expose, to have them have Chase exposed or a running back exposed, and certainly the same for the quarterback. So pass protection will be at a premium in our conference with the elite defenses that you're going against, the elite rushers, the down linemen that can disrupt and create havoc that we're going to face this week. And we faced an excellent player last week from Chattanooga, an excellent player, but we're going to play a lot like him.
Tight ends have been very involved, especially in the passing game. How does that compare to what you envisioned going into camp or what have you? Framing up the offense.
That's about what I thought it would be. I think part of it is like who they are, what they are, and every one of them's different. Tight ends, they're unique in that world. Every player's different, like all receivers are different, but they all have a similar type skill set. A tight end, sometimes they're just unique in the regard, like they're just all a little bit different in what they bring to the table. So we have a group that is different, and they have different strengths and weaknesses, and I think it's blended together very well to this point in the season. And been really pleased with the way they've been able to supplement our offense from a touch standpoint, catching the ball and taking advantage of the opportunities that have been created. But we need them to play really well. I mean, they've got a huge responsibility for our C gap and D gap blocking and lead blocking, and then also being on the perimeter. But been pleased with them so far, and it's played out about like I thought it would going into fall camp.
All right, thanks, guys.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Good to see everybody.
What's up? How you guys doing?
Right, let's talk about, kind of the rematches from last year. This is another one, and probably one that you guys would want back. It's an outlier in the last half of the season. So what do you think you guys need to do to be more successful this time around, or why you're going to be more successful?
No, we can't do what we did last year. That's for sure. It's as you start to prepare for rematch games, you look at last year's film, and that's not a fun one to watch. We've definitely improved at a lot of aspects to correct some of the issues we had a year ago. And yeah, this is a game that we're excited for. Obviously Wisconsin is a great opponent, big physical up front. Got a running back that runs hard. I think he's like 6'2", 240 pounds. It's a big kid, and they're well coached. They like to run the football, and it's going to be your prototypical Big Ten game. Where it's either won or lost in the trenches.
CJ's versatility help you, all of the other 10 guys on the field, and especially get you off the field on third down. Seems like you're able to use him in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, it definitely helps. Just with how we're structured schematically, his ability to, rush off the edge and be a second level linebacker. He's got a great instinct and nose for the football, and plays with some swagger, and his energy is definitely infectious when he's on his game and playing well.
I know we talked about it a lot. Like, was that something that was already kind of ingrained in the building when you got here? Was that something you guys have gone out of your way to emphasize? Kind of what you want that to be culturally? Yeah,
I have no idea what was done in the building previously before I got here. It's definitely something that we always emphasize as a defense. It's just a down where it's you got a chance to get off the field and give you the ball back to your offense. So we definitely work on third downs a lot. It's definitely a point of emphasis both from a staff and a player's perspective. And I think anytime you emphasize those things, you should you should have some success in that regard. And our guys has been doing a great job of executing the game plan, executing the scheme, and then just making plays, when opportunities arise.
What you're able to do on first and second down and some of those third and longer situations.
Yeah, it definitely helps. Obviously, Chattanooga got us a couple third and longs running the football. But you win on first and second down. Third and 8 is a lot more manageable defensively than the 3rd and 2. So, you definitely spend time on first down, and then as Coach B says, second down is the most forgotten down in football, and that's definitely been a area of emphasis that I've learned from him, just studying what teams are doing on second down to get you in a third and more advantageous distance defensively.
You have a top 5 defense. What do you think of?
What's that?
You see that you have a top 5 defense. In the
I
country.
didn't
What do you
know
think?
that. No. Seriously, this is news to me. It's early in the year. Our guys are playing well right now. I do think that we'll continue to get better as the year goes. But as far as rankings and where you stack up stat wise, we're just trying to hold our opponents to one less point than what our offense is scoring to try to win a game. That's the focus. And in order to do so, you are focused every snap on trying to get the ball back to your offense so that they go score. So, as far as the rankings and the stats, they are what they are, and they'll be what they'll be. We're just trying to win ball games.
Yeah, outside linebackers had arguably their best game. Was that more the matchup, or is that group taking a big leap forward?
I think it's a combination of both. I did feel like we matched up favorably on the edge a week ago, but at the same time, you got guys that are improving every week, and they should, right? Like I'm getting to like the midway point of the year. Guys like Seth have now had a catalog of reps, and you got guys like Gabe, who are freshmen and starting to gain experience. Like they should be getting better, and we're trying to learn them too. Learn what we can and can't do with them. What are their strengths and weaknesses, and what they can handle from an install standpoint. So, but I do think it was a combination of both. Thursday night.
Ribbing has Keith Randolph got maybe on ball security?
Oh, a lot. He's gotten everything from give the ball to somebody else that can go score. He should have got down, all kind of stuff. So I think he got flashbacks to a year ago where he also got the pick, and I think Seth would also argue it was a sack fumble and not an interception. But it's a good learning experience for all of us. Defensively, you got a chance to maintain or get possession of the football. You got to maintain it. And Coach B is always detailed about ball security and how to hold the football. And so it's just it shows that all those things matter. And that could have been like Coach says, it's not what happened, it's what could happen. That could have been a critical point in the game, and definitely a learning experience for all of us.
Keith and Johnny were kind of paired together over the last year plus, but just what do they maybe do for each other on the field where they can maybe both have the type of success they've had?
Well, I think, for one, they're both playing at a really high level, and they push each other, every day in practice. And so because they play similar positions, it's hard for the offense to slide to one guy or the other, because you're somebody's going to be single blocked, so I think that is advantageous for both of them, and their versatility on the inside is advantageous for our defense.
You mentioned the Wisconsin running back. How much of a challenge does he present?
Yeah, like he's a big physical runner. The first guy hardly ever brings him down. So we got to do a good job of gang tackling and swarming to the football and playing the type of defense we've been playing, and just continue to get better every day.
See, one of those guys that gets better clearly as he goes along. I mean, you see him. Is he better in the second, third, fourth quarter than he is earlier? Is not better.
I think he's good all the time, man. He's a physically an impressive kid, and they feature him a lot. So I think anytime he's got the ball in his hands, that's what they want. So we got to do a good job, like I said, of knowing where he's at and identifying how they're trying to get him the ball and what type of run game we're getting on Saturday.
How is he able to kind of mature and grow into this role that he's in now?
I think naturally he's older. He's got more experience. But at the same time, when you are thrust into the starting role and you've got younger guys in your room, like you're in a leadership position, and he's embraced that. And Coach Kane has done a good job of giving him that platform in their room, and guys are responding to him.
As you guys have run, does that take a mindset that you have to build? Like, how do you do that? And then is that an identity you're trying to build?
I think a lot of it is, I think there's like a misconception sometimes, and I've heard it from all levels of football. Like, well, teams that don't play man, it's like, well, we just don't have the guys that can play man. Well, I think you just don't. You're not teaching the proper technique then. If you're a Division I athlete and you're playing in the secondary, in my opinion, if you've got the right teaching, the right tools, and the right wherewithal, and we still have to have the right mindset, then you can play man coverage. It's been advantageous for us because our guys have embraced it. It makes the quarterback have to throw in tight windows and make accurate passes. It makes receivers have to make contested catches, and it makes the throwing and the catching a little bit harder, in my opinion. And our guys have, like I said, have embraced that. They like that challenge, and it's been good for us.
Offensive staff overhaul for Wisconsin from last year to this year, without trying to give many things away. Are you seeing things that are fundamentally different that they're doing on that side of the ball since like maybe last year when they came here?
Yeah, there are things schematically that are a little bit different, but I think philosophy is still the same. They want to get big. They want to use their tight ends. They want to run the football. Out of what formation and what kind of schemes they do that out of is a little bit different than a year ago from an identity standpoint. But I definitely think philosophically they're still Wisco.
Coach allowed opponents to a touchdown or without a touchdown 3 out of the 4 games. How does that kind of show what you're implementing is working?
How does it show what we're implementing is working? Well, they're not getting on the scoreboard. You know what I mean? And that's the ultimate goal defensively. But I think the reason why we're having success on defense is just because our guys are preparing and practicing the right way. It is fun to be at practice. It is fun to be in meeting rooms. They want to be good at football. They enjoy playing the game for all the right reasons. It's not for Twitter followers or Instagram likes. Like, they like to play because they like to play. And anytime you combine that with talent, with talent, I think you have an opportunity for success if you don't screw them up as a coach, right? So as a staff, we're just trying to put them in position to be able to make plays and be fundamentally sound from a schematic standpoint. Hopefully the trend continues and we continue to get better.
You're focused on you, but from a pure standpoint, what do you think makes Jim Leonhard such a successful defensive coordinator?
I think from the film that I've seen, like from crossover games, he definitely has a rhyme and reason for when he's bringing pressure, when he's not. How his front is aligned. And his guys they play fast and they execute. And he's got talented guys on that side of the ball, and they definitely play with an attitude and an edge.
How do you personally approach that, like in game week, competitive wise? I'm sure, like that element. Like, what's that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I could tell you what kind of goes in my mind. Like, I'm competitive as it gets. You know what I mean? So, walking off that field last year wasn't fun, and so some of the things we've done is in preparation for this game. And as a competitor, you just can't wait to go play again, and I'm hoping our guys will be ready to go, and I think they will be ready to go Saturday.
How do you perform about the second down, like the most forgotten down? What stood out the most when Brett kind of put that idea out there? What do you remember about being so impactful?
Well, you see tendencies from offenses based on the down and distance on second down, or how, if it's 2nd and 8, well, how did they get to 2nd and 8? Was it a run? Was it a short pass? Or if it's 2nd and 10, was it an incompletion or was it a failed run? And so the 2nd and 10 play, sometimes is different depending on what happened on first down. And some teams will treat like 2nd and 1 like a shot play, and some teams will just try to get the first down. So based on tendencies and what you're seeing from an offensive coordinator's identity, you can make an educated assumption about what's going to happen, and that can sway your call.
Thursday, Calvin Andrews into play somewhere in the neighborhood of 35 to 40. How much does that help you guys knowing that he can be that nose for you on 70% of the defensive snaps?
Yeah. I mean, I think twofold. One, he is our best nose guard, and so anytime you can have him fresh out there is advantageous. It helps us be at our best. And I also think just being able to get off the field. I think we had like 7 3-and-outs. That helps too. You're getting rest and not playing a bunch of plays in a row, and that's again why we have such an emphasis on getting to 3rd and manageable and then getting off the field on 3rd down.
Coach Walters? All right.
All right, appreciate you guys.
Yeah, obviously excited for our guys to get into this week, get back into Big Ten play. When the schedule came out a long time ago, knowing that we had to Wyoming, which is going to allow us 2 bye weeks, then obviously moved Chattanooga into that Thursday night game. I thought it would be an advantage just going into the Chattanooga game, and then hopefully for an advantage for us getting ready to play at Wisconsin. So I think our guys enjoyed a little bit of day off on Saturday, watch other people work. Got a good jump yesterday, and today is a day off in our program. So we'll jump into it tomorrow, but I like where we're at from a health standpoint. Josh McCray, kind of a work in progress. He actually started running on land and doing the things that would indicate that he's getting closer to his return. I don't know if it'll be this week or next week, but excited for him to continue to move in the right direction. Overall, the rest of our guys got out of it pretty healthy. Don't really foresee. I actually get Jamal Woods back. He's been out the last 2 weeks. He got cleared about 24 hours before the game last week. So to get him involved this week in practice will be a huge advantage. It's going to be a tough game. Obviously, 2 teams that play a physical style of play and where that is. But otherwise, everybody else should get back to being back with us. And with that, open up for questions.
Talked about these rematch games. I imagine what happened last year, this is going to be one you guys will report to. Why do you think your program is more prepared to play Wisconsin now?
I think just the general work in progress, but this is going to be a great one, right? So this is week 5, rematch 2. Last week when I got the question about playing an FCS opponent, I kind of gave the answer that I gave because this is the same thing, right? We're playing a Big Ten opponent here, but it's really our second Big Ten opponent. It's week game 5 of our 12 opportunities that were guaranteed. It's a second rematch game of 7, so a lot on the table. But this game is about Illinois going to Wisconsin and playing on a road environment, a Big Ten conference. I don't believe we've won there since 2002. It was pointed out to me, so not an easy place to win at. Obviously, I know that more than anybody. And I think the flip side of it is our guys really, since we got together last January, we've kind of said what's behind us is behind us. What's in front of us is what matters. And they've really taken that approach all the way through till I left them yesterday afternoon. I expect this Saturday to be more of the same.
Coach, 2 very good and up-and-coming defensive coordinators going head-to-head. What makes Jim Leonhard and Coach Walters so successful, do you think?
I've had Jimmy as a player. I've never worked with him as a coach, but my guess is a lot of things that made him a great player is what makes him a good coach. And then just to compete against him last year, you can see all the things that he does kind of tie together. I'm sure he's really good. I know this from recruiting against him that he's obviously a guy that has the ability to connect with players. It doesn't matter DBs, wideouts, running backs, D linemen, linebackers. He's probably very, very good at player communication. He's his own man. Like, I don't think he does anything different than the things he believes in. Obviously, I've worked with Ron. I never knew him as a player, but my guess is some of the things that I've seen from him as a coach are probably what made him a good player as well. Two very talented guys that their results show that. I think they'd be the first to tell you it's not about Jimmy Leonard versus Ryan Walters. It's about the teams that play on Saturday. Both of them are great competitors. So excited to see really all phases of the game on Saturday play out.
What stands out about the way your defense has kind of embraced this getting off the field on third down? It seems you guys have a lot of success.
Yeah.
Defense. What stands out there?
Well, again, it starts by what they're taught and what they're coached. But some really good players. I just think, during the bye week, I took a look at our roster and, projected roster for obviously the rest of this year, but also in the years to come, because that directly affects how you recruit, right? And, up front, you have, really a 3-man rotation at defensive end that's pretty solid, pretty deep. 2-man to 3-man rotation at nose guard. 3 or 4 guys on overhang players, outside backers, 3 inside linebackers that play really well, and 4 of the 5 defensive backs that have played a lot of really good football. 3 of the 5, and then Taz and Kendall are kind of new to the mix, but you just got a lot of guys that play good football. It's their second year with Ryan. I think all the same things you guys asked me questions about, with the offense continue to grow with Barry. Now it's their second year with Coach Walters, what they say and what they hear. I saw a quote from Johnny last week, and he, I think, was asked kind of the same question. He basically said something to the effect of, we have a better understanding of what Coach Walters wants now more than ever. I think that's really how our entire program feels, anybody that's been here since we've gotten here. So it's just more of the same.
What makes Wisconsin so good in terms of system? Obviously, you had a part in that and what they are now. But
yeah,
how does their system dictate what they are?
Yeah, they've just continued to evolve. I think when I got there as a defensive coordinator, they ran a certain style of offense, and then when I took over, we transitioned. Although Paul had been there 1 year, we really changed out everybody offensively on the staff, and then brought in an entire new defensive staff. So there was transition there, and then I think when I left, that brought in a new group of coaches with Coach Anderson, but more importantly, Dave Aranda started that transition to the 3 down that they run today. And Dave was there for a while, established himself obviously in that system that got him future opportunities. And then when Paul came in, the evolution to Jimmy has kind of been a spinoff of that. I think offensively, even when we were there, Paul and I were together, it was, we constantly had to go back and, listen to all the run, but it was a really, our good teams were balanced. They were a 200 run, throwing 200 catch, running. And, then I think the other thing that just that environment, Madison is a sold out crowd. One of the things that really jumped out to me when I left Wisconsin to go to Arkansas, I never had to really sit in a meeting and listen about ticket sales or the ability to pack the stadium when I went to Arkansas. And then obviously when I came here, it was just kind of a foregone conclusion that the crowd was going to be there. They're going to show up and it was going to be sold out. So that's one of the things that really, I don't think people have an idea that an environment like that, how ideal that is to play in front of week in and week out.
In a lot of places. Sorry.
Along with that, you have a small group of guys who have actually played at Camp Randall with fans. What do you tell them about how to brace for that?
Well, a couple different things. The good news is kind of like when we went to Penn State in Minnesota last year, we knew we were walking into a hostile environment. Penn State has over 110,000 that we were walking into. Every stadium's a little bit different, but we have been able to have success at stadiums when we were the visitors. So I know they've done that already. Camp Randall is a unique stadium. It's very vertical, so it's very loud. They've obviously redone the one end zone, so I'm excited to see that. I haven't seen it. Obviously, I haven't been back there. I've been in Madison twice since I left, but never on the football field in this environment. I've never been in the visitors' locker room as a competitor. So, but there are a lot of things I learned about our visitors that visited us when I was there that I've definitely shared with our team, and we're kind of working through those things this week. From everything from, their locker room is all very light blue. It's not quite pink, but it's light blue. It's very nice. It's a big locker room, a lot of space, a lot better than I would say most of the majority of the Big Ten Conference visiting locker rooms. It's one of the better ones. It's a first class stadium that should bring a lot of fun to the kids to visit.
Starts a stretch of 4 games in division. Is that part of the talking point with the team at all, or is it kind of similar to what you were talking about last week with it's just the next team?
Yeah, good point. We've really kind of broken it down to the way the schedule laid out was we were going to play 3 games. One of those was going to be a Big Ten game, take a bye week, come back, play Chattanooga, then 3 divisional opponents, take a bye week, come back and play 5 Big Ten, with a couple of those being a crossover at the beginning and the end, like start with Nebraska and end with Northwestern. So however you want to dice it, we're through 4, so we're a third of the way through the total number of guaranteed. But we do have a stretch run here of 3 teams that I think as you look at them in the Big Ten Conference, a lot of people look at them as kind of the more physical group of opponents that you'll play between, Wisconsin, Iowa, and Minnesota, all 3 back-to-back. So, but our guys really do just focus on, we have a 1-0 mantra every week. We're just trying to do what we have to do to get through this week to get 1-0 on Saturday. And then we kind of reset the focus and our guys have really bought into that.
A lot of people are focusing on Chase as the nation's leading rusher, but do you get a sense that the other 10 guys on offense take some pride in that, especially with the guys up front?
I think our team takes a lot of pride in how our guys play. I saw a quote from Pilstrom that somebody asked him in reference to, how does it feel to block for Chase Brown? And he made a reference. He said, I expect him to pull off his shirt and so the Superman, right, at some point. And that's just Pill just be having some fun with the moment. He said, I love blocking for Chase Brown. I did make a point after the Wyoming game, the very opening play, everybody made obviously and deservedly so. That was Chase created that play. He made a guy miss in the background, bounced it, but it was really turned into a big play because of Pat Bryant straining down the field to make a block. And I just pointed out to them there, like every guy in offense, if you want to be the guy, right, that doesn't give that extra step, doesn't give that extra strain, doesn't give that extra second of blocking that allows him to maybe get by you or break an arm tackle, it's going to show up on film. And our guys take a lot of pride in that. I think anytime he's in there, they feel he touches the ball, they have a chance to go the distance.
When you were at Wisconsin, you had a bunch of the really good running backs. Looks like they got another one now. What do you think about this guy?
One of the things that NFL teams like to do is they love to have comparisons, right? So I learned that when I was in the league, so this offensive lineman, who does he remind you of, right? And on this tight end, who does he remind you of? So I obviously naturally get the comparison Chase to any of my previous running backs. And, I think he's a blend. Chase is his own unique animal. I've had very fortunate. I remember playing in a Rose Bowl game where my top 4 running backs eventually played in the NFL, first-round draft picks, third-round draft picks. Chase has something that not a lot of guys have. Chase has an incredible burst, so he can literally burst through a hole and show short area quickness. He also has long stride strength, right, which means he's long stride speed. He has the ability to pull away and create a big play. He has the ability to run through arm tackles, and he's a very physical back. And then the thing that probably sets him apart than a lot of running backs I've had, he truly does have third down value, where he can catch the ball really well. He can be used in protection. He can be used as a blocker in down the field schemes. So he's a very unique prospect, and I mean this with all due respect. He's a good player right now, but he's getting better every game.
That's a good one from Wisconsin too.
Yeah.
So what do you think about him?
A couple good ones. I think.
Right?
Yeah, Allen's good. I think that they've prided themselves on their ability to run the football, and he obviously ranks in the nation's best as well. So we got a tremendous task out in front of us. It'll be by far our biggest test defensively to play against them. And I like the idea of this game. It's if you're truly a Big Ten fan, you're going to love watching this game. I think we've made strides from where we were a year ago, but that's only going to be determined by what you see on the field.
Coach Lunney told us that he thinks the team is beginning to establish an identity. But what do you think that identity is? Is it the identity that you envisioned?
Coach Lunney, you talking about offense, or is it a general question? Or?
Offense, yes, but from your perspective with the whole team too.
Yeah, I think any team, as it starts the season, they take an identity of their own. Last year we had a really strong group of, 5th and 6th year seniors that had their personalities come out Doug Kramer was a very strong personality. Jake Hansen was a very strong personality. And I think you saw those guys in particular on both sides of the ball. We had two kickers that in my coaching career are, two of the better ones, combination platters I've ever been around. So the team really, I think, grew to those personalities and players. This year, I knew we had a host of good players coming back, but now you have, Palcho, who has a different voice, Pilstrom. I think Julian Pearl has a really big voice in the offensive line. Luke Ford has put together two really good weeks of football back to back at wide receiver position. So everybody made a big deal about Chase Round rushing for 100 and two receivers catching the ball for over 100 and the first time in Illinois history. I don't know if I've ever had that in my history, right? So Coach Bielema's coached team offensively looks a lot different than anything that I've been a part of, and it really is fun for me, enjoyable, great for me to really take the things that Barry's doing. And I Coach Fry always used to say, right, like, never ignore the things you know and never coach the things you don't. So there's learning curve as a head coach with an up-tempo offense. The way we practice, the way we game plan, the way we strategize has been a lot of fun. And then I think even like this morning, I was with the defense staff for about a half hour about different techniques up front that we kind of put together as a defensive collective group and talk about how they could apply to our game plan this week. And then, to be really honest, special teams coordinator with Coach Snyder, he and I working together this year with special teams has been a lot of fun in the return game and different aspects that we're using in special teams. So it's really just been a year that's been a transition, and we're 4 games into it, and I'm excited to see where 5 goes.
You see what you have been able to do running the ball and throwing the ball, maybe just better complementing each other this season?
What were our numbers Saturday? Weren't they like right around 200 each? I think it was, Tommy was through it. But anytime you have balance like that, when it's not too skewed one way or the other, it's just you're hard to defend. I believe we had over 18 plus plays of 10 yards or more. When you have that many plays of 10 yards or more, you're explosive. And that's a very, very hard thing for a defense to, okay, we got to stop this. We got to stop that. You have 2 receivers. And then I think, Brian Hightower has shown that he can play the game fairly well and tight end. So, no, it's not anything different than it's just a little bit probably different in the way that it's getting accomplished.
You mentioned, different offense than you've ever had. Obviously, you do it to win games.
Yeah.
But how did you get to that point where this is the style you wanted to go?
I really had gotten to it even before me coming here. I think when when it ended at Arkansas, right, I think you really during the next 30 days had to, just from coaches that had gone through that, really look at and take a self-inventory, not only in the first couple of days after it happened, but then go back like 10 days later, and then especially, 30 days later. And I kind of went through that whole process for about 3 years, right? And I watched a lot of college football. I was watching prospects. I was going to different campuses. I remember being at Clemson. I remember being at Alabama. I remember being at Oklahoma. I remember being at places that I'm like, okay, I would really sit down and talk to their offensive coaches, talk about tempo, talk about things, and really did a 3-year study on when that next opportunity came, what I wanted to do. And obviously made a selection offensively. I think that at some point I realized it wasn't quite what I wanted it to be, and I knew where I wanted it to go. And that's when we made transition. I think when another big one for me was when I was in the SEC and I saw Alabama change. That was a huge moment for me. Like, okay, they can go out and get literally the best players they want really at any given point. And they knew where they needed to go. And then an honest one truly is when other coaches got jobs in the SEC, they were trying to hire my coaches, right? And that's when I knew, like, okay, I'm hiring the right guys. Well, we got to begin to do the right things. And that's kind of been the process.
Major staff overhaul that Paul did at Wisconsin, especially offensively, new OC, new offensive line coach, new running backs coach. Are you seeing them transition? Like, I know Paul's still there, but
yeah,
do something a little bit different, even though the philosophy might be still the same.
I get it. I think that so Joe Rudolph, who was the O-line coach there last year, was my tight ends coach when I was there. Bob Bostad, who's now the O-line coach, was my O-line coach when I was there. He was coaching linebackers last year, but I know he got involved with the O-line look team when we were playing last year. So there's like fingerprints all over it. Paul, is probably one of the guys that when I first got into coaching as a head coach, especially, but I was a defensive coordinator when I first met him. He'd come on staff my last year. His first year was my last year as defense coordinator before we transitioned, and his knowledge, his football acumen, his ability to relate to players and get along with them was easily seen, right? And then I love competing against him. A lot of times our scrimmages, I had kind of grown stale and just kind of, okay, I'm going out playing defense against this offense, but he would bring something new to the table all the time and to keep your mind fresh. I definitely see Coach Bostad as the offensive line coach. I definitely see his fingerprints on what they're doing in the run game. I can see Coach Ingram. I played against the Ravens, so I kind of can see the elements of some stuff there that's beginning to happen. Defensively, without a doubt, Jimmy has got a system in place and stays pretty consistent with that. But yeah, you can see things. I challenge our players all the time. So we're playing Wisconsin. So as a defensive lineman, you're going to go against the left guard and the right guard. They're both playing guard in the same system, but they're both different players because of who they are, right? And that's when now we're 4 games into it, or 5 going into our 5th game. You get a lot of film on who they are, right? Like, what is that? Who is that guy, right? I know what his jersey number, I know what his name is, but how does he play? And that's the fun part for coaching.
You said time and again, this is about Illinois and Wisconsin. Just in your first, you said you haven't been back there.
Yeah.
Have you thought at all over the last year and a half about what that might be like to go back into this place you've had so much success?
I've thought about it a lot, but probably not in the context of what you think, right? Like, so one of the benefits of this, which is, related, unrelated, is really the first time this ever happened to me. I was at Wisconsin as a defense coordinator. And so the first time I went back to Iowa, right, as an assistant coach, I was a defense coordinator. If we won that game, we were going to be Big Ten champs. The way the games played out that day, somebody had to lose that day. I can't remember who it was. And that person lost, right? And then we went out. Jimmy Leonard, if I'm not mistaken, intercepted the first 2 possessions that we played that day. And we were playing really good defensively. I ended up losing the game. And I really didn't have one emotional moment until after the game, right? I was after the game. Part of it was seeing, some former players, seeing Kirk, but also as a former player, I remember going up and coming out of the players' locker room as a player and as an assistant and watching a band in the post game, right? I used to just sit there and kind of watch it. And so I think that the effect that had on me is there really was no effect leading up to the game. A lot of people were talking about it, but it had no effect on me before the game, but afterwards. And it was interesting. I saw that recently of another coach that returned home. And then, the first time that I went to Wisconsin when I went to Iowa as a head coach was really no factor, right? Like, it really truly didn't. We were fortunate enough to win the game, but as a head coach, I thought there was going to be a lot more to it, and it wasn't. So this year, this is really no different, right? We've obviously played Wisconsin last year. It was my first time going back there. I think because of the experiences I've already had at other places, it's not going to affect me. I got friends and family and all that jazz, but it's really not an effect. I think as coaches, you're probably more numb to it than the outside world because it really is just about the game you're involved in. And have I thought about it? Yes. I'll talk to them about how we're going to handle the locker room, which I already mentioned. I know where the hotel is. I know the layout of that hotel. I know the dynamics. I know 11 o'clock game, right? So one of the factors in this game is it's our first 11 o'clock game of the year, which to me is just as big effect as anything else, because now you're having pregame meal at 7 o'clock versus, 3 o'clock in the afternoon for a 7 o'clock game. There's a big difference there. They obviously have a third quarter, at the end of third quarter tradition. It is very unique to them, kind of like last year at Iowa when they waved to the Children's Hospital. Every place has traditions that you educate your players on. At least I do. That's part of the fun of playing in this conference.
How Tommy DeVito is progressing in the passing game in general?
Tommy, I've said it every week. He just continues to impress me. His football acumen, his intelligence. Him and Barry really have a special relationship. I think Art and RJ in particular, the knowledge and power those 3 quarterbacks share together, because they're hearing an offense for the first time too and kind of working off of it. I think Tommy's done a really good job of building relationships in the team, not just with the offensive players, but I think I told you a story the other day. I turned around, he's sitting with the defensive line. Like, he just has bought into what we've been selling him and what we've been preaching to him since he got here. And every week it just continues to get better.
Statistically, I think 3 of the top 5 running backs in the country right now are in the Big Ten West, including, of course, Chase Brown. Is that welcome to the Big Ten West, or is that is there anything more to it? And that's just
Well, I've seen a couple. I watched Minnesota, Michigan State the other day, and obviously last year that the running back from Minnesota was injured, so he's a very. I think he's got like 13 straight games of 100 yards. That doesn't just happen, right? BJ and those guys have done a really good job of accentuating him. Obviously, we're facing an opponent this week that has one. I think he's number 4, number 5, if I'm not mistaken. I love Chase and what he is. I don't know if it's anything more than just coincidence, but it's very good running backs that perform what they do well and getting very well coached.
This is your first time back at Madison, so the concentration will be on you as far as the media and the fans go. Does that take your pressure off the players?
That's a good question. I kind of knew this day was coming, so I've literally, I think I shared this the other day, for the last 6 months, I've received as many opportunities to do, exclusive return from newspapers, magazines, television shows. And I just said, I made a decision early on. I was going to say no to all of them because I don't want the future to be on me. But I also, told our players the other day, like, listen, I know this is going to get a lot of questions about me, but this is about Illinois. This is why I'm here. This is what I'm doing. I think it's a lot easier for the outside world to focus on that rather than our football team. I think sitting there watching the game Saturday night and I knew I was going to get some banter from our current players. I knew they watch it. They kind of shoot me texts every now and then while football's going on. I just like the chemistry of our team, and that's what I'm focusing on. I don't know if it relieves or gives any more pressure.
You only get to see him one game last year, but with CJ Hart, did you know and talk to Coach Dorian when you were recruiting him out of the portal that he would be this versatile for you?
Yeah, so Dave and I are really close. And Dave, if I'm not mistaken, I might have actually called about another player. And Dave said, hey, there's a guy, CJ Hart, who's in the portal. I didn't want to lose him. I think it'd be a really good. He knew how I'd want to play defense. So yeah, we reached out to him. The great thing about CJ is, for you guys that have interviewed him, he's a pretty serious demeanor kid, very athletic. He is, I think, a little bit of a gamer. He shows up in games more than, not that he doesn't practice well. He just kind of does that. But when he came to me last spring and told me that he was going to be expecting a child, I said, okay, well, here's what you got to think about. And he looked at me and he never really thought through those moments, right? And so I remember we had 2 meetings in the summer, kind of planned out, hey, when this comes, what are we going to do, right? I think it was due actually Michigan week, and so she came a couple weeks early. I knew the mom was going to be in Florida and he was going to be here, which is a whole, when I had my first one, I know I didn't handle it well, right? So I know these kids when they're going through these moments, the more we can walk through it. I think that gave him a piece coming into this year, and then he called me, whatever it was, Wednesday morning, and said, hey, Coach, she started. I said, okay, well, we've talked about this moment. It's Tuesday. I guess it was Tuesday or Wednesday morning. I said, let's play this game Thursday. We'll get you on the first flight Friday morning and get you back Monday afternoon. How's that sound? He's like, perfect. I'm like, all right, so let's roll. And that's kind of just CJ. His dad's a pastor. CJ, a very faith-based kid. His parents are incredible role models for him. So I think the maturity that he has when he found this environment, and I think one of the things that I always say to our guys is, hey, just so you know, it isn't like this everywhere else, right? Like the way we do things for you, the things we provide, the things Josh Whitman allows our guys to have access to, from a victory dinner to, the way we put a helmet on them to the way we take care of them. These things aren't very common in other places. You can't just, spend money and have an effect. Our kids know everything we do matters. And I think CJ kind of tested the whole group like, hey, I've been in other places. It isn't always like this. And that gives us a lot of street credit too. Thank you.